Hi, I'm Darren McDonald. Sudbury.com has invited candidates in the provincial election in Sudbury and Nickel Belt to talk with us about their individual party platforms. Today we're joined by Troy Crowder, who's running for the Tories in Sudbury. Hi, Troy.
How you doing? Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. It's certainly been an interesting election so far. That's an understatement. I'm hoping to get your outlook on how the campaign has gone so far. Your party started with a big lead. The polls are showing that things are certainly tightening up. The dynamic is changing. The Liberals are dropping. The NDP are rising. I wonder, in your view, why has the Tory campaign gone a bit south so far?
I don't know if we've gone south, but there's definitely been a media shift. And I'm pretty sure that after all the attempted payoffs and buying votes that the Win Liberals have tried and their numbers have not moved, I think that the media shift, because she has a pretty good relationship with the media, to push Andrea's numbers and push Andrea forward, because in the hopes of maybe them tag teaming together to form a minority government. I'm thinking that's more of a media push than it is an actual reality. Because
so
basically
you think that the media is pumping up?
They're pumping her up.
So voters just listen to the media?
Her platform hasn't changed. Our platform hasn't changed. The attempt to get the Win Liberals up didn't move, so I think this is just a secondary motion of trying to hold on to some kind of power, really.
So you think the media is sort of?
Oh, guaranteed. Yeah, guaranteed. There's an underlying underbelly that's trying to make things look a little different than what they really are.
Now, how do the media influence voters, do you think?
Well, just by writing great stories about how great Andrea is and how bad Mr. Ford is, and just the focus of the articles. You just got to. In the world of hockey, you learn about patterns, and you can trace patterns. So you can trace the patterns that happen during our leadership debates. You can trace the patterns that happen afterwards, and so it's regular occurrences of articles that tie things together. And like I said, our platform hasn't changed. We're about creating jobs, stimulating the economy. Their platform is about handouts and going farther into debt. So no miracles happened in between those 2 points. So It seems pretty obvious, the writing on the wall.
So it's the media to blame?
Well, I'm not going to say to blame, but I'm saying they got a very good part in making things happen for sure.
Okay. Yeah. About half an hour ago, I got an email from your party, and the tagline was, Doug Ford will reduce taxes, hydro bills, and gas prices. Now, I can't imagine anyone would oppose that, but I'm just wondering if you can maybe flesh out a bit, especially the gas price promise. That's 10 cents a litre. How will you do that?
Well, basically, the only thing we can control in the world of gas is the actual provincial taxes. And so he was just saying that he would reduce our portion to take that cost to the consumer down. Unfortunately, it's large petroleum corporations that really control the pricing, and our federal government hasn't really stepped in to try to control any of that. There's obviously a bit of a war going on a pipeline right now, which is reflecting in why prices across our country are going up. It's kind of a little message, I think, that's being sent to us that, hey, if we don't make this deal happen, everyone's going to pay more. So he's trying to give some relief in our province for people that already paid too much taxes and too much on hydro, and so it's just one form of relief.
So he'll remove the provincial tax?
I don't know if he's going to take all of it, but I'm sure he's going to take part of it, whatever the amount he's trying to figure out that makes sense for a budgetary standpoint and what's going to give some relief to people. That's kind of how he's allocated.
And what kind of fiscal impact will that have on the budget?
Well, I think the fiscal impact is no different than when you're talking HST and removing 1% or whatever it is. These are just different versions of trying to give people relief.
So you're not sure how much it's going to cost, or?
Well, I'm not the budgetary expert for that stuff. No,
okay, sure.
Mine is about trying to create jobs and make a better life for people in Sudbury, where our economy is suffering. Our unemployment is extremely high in this city. So for me, it's about what can we do in my area, because I'm the representative for Sudbury.
Now, hydro bills by 12%. Is that on top of the Liberal plan?
I do believe it's on top of the Liberal plan, yeah.
Okay, and no idea how much that will cost?
No, all I know is he's trying to give relief to people, and so where we bring relief from just something that's going to affect everybody instead of trying to just buy votes to one certain union or one certain group of people, his whole platform is based on giving relief to everybody. So wherever you give relief in something like a hydro or a gas tax, then you have to then find efficiencies in waste. Perfect example is $8 billion on our e-health program that still doesn't work. The gas plant scandal, the green energy plan, all these things that have costed billions and billions and billions of dollars. When you stop making those kind of mistakes and you actually run an efficient government, you can then give a break in some of the other areas.
Okay. Your party's Northern platform talks about making progress in the Ring of Fire. The narrative, we've heard for a long time is that getting agreements with all the First Nations in the area is the problem. When Doug Ford was in town, I asked him, and he said that he had a First Nations chief running in the Northwest. And,
yeah, Chief Bull.
Yeah, and I guess the inference is, maybe he can get it done. I wonder, is that a realistic approach? And exactly how's that going to work? How are you going to make progress where other parties have failed?
Well, I think the Ring of Fire is only one of many things. Like Northern Ontario is full of resources. There's red tape that's part of the governmental problem, which stops things from happening. Environmental impact and technologies have come a long way. You see with the new deep mine that Glencore's put out there and how they've made it very clean, very efficient, no impact to the environment. So that's kind of what we look at, is like stopping the red tape, stopping the things that are stopping development in Northern Ontario. The Ring of Fire is it's a big project. It's a long way up. It's not an easy access. Obviously, working with Indigenous communities, we've talked about revenue sharing with them. We were the first party to bring that right to our platform about sharing revenue. We also talk about sharing the revenues from our mining that's going on here in Sudbury with people in Northern Ontario. It's not just Indigenous, it's not just Sudbury people, it's all of the North sharing together to make things happen, become more prosperous. And it really comes down to is communication, understanding. There's a lot of people that believe, well, if we just do this, we just do that. There's a lot of reconciliation, and there has to be a program to move forward together. I think that's where people with some life experience, empathy, and common sense can actually maybe help the process.
Okay. The environment is an issue mainly because of the debate over the carbon tax. It had been Tory policy to bring in a carbon tax that was absolutely revenue neutral. I know that Doug Ford has called the carbon tax a cash grab, and I wonder if you can articulate exactly where the party is at on this file right now.
Yeah, if you take money from the average everyday Joe and then you give it right back to them, why would you just not take it in the first place? Or if you take money from the average everyday person and you spend it on other things, you're not really helping the environment. Both the Auditor General and many of the climate people have said that our plans to achieve our Accord numbers are not even remotely close to where they should be and won't be. So obviously the plan that is set out isn't working. The Green Energy Act in itself has really nothing to do with the environment. So it comes down to is making decisions on certain industries that directly affect and trying to work with them to advance their technologies and or start putting money into technologies that are going to actually make sense. We live in a land that has rivers and hydro dams that we don't even use. I think that if I were in the world of technology, I'd be putting my resources into how can we make more efficient hydro systems and how can we reduce transmission lines and have more direct impact in our communities. Obviously travel time, and when you live in Northern Ontario, you've got to travel all over the place. I mean, a simple thing because I'm a hockey guy, but arenas. We got arenas spread out all over the place. Most communities now build multiple sports complexes in the central cities so that it's easier travel time. There's more things to do, so families aren't running all over the place. So you can do things that are good for the environment by looking at our lifestyles just as much as you can look at having some kind of blanket cash grab that really doesn't make any effect.
The elephant in the room for a lot of PC candidates, including yourself, who were recruited by Patrick Brown, he was selling a sort of Bill Davis style Tory party. It was moderate but conservative, fiscally responsible but socially progressive. Way ahead in the polls. The party decided to go a different direction. He was ousted, and I know you blame the media. You say,
I think he's suing the media, isn't he?
Actually, he wrote an interesting article for the Toronto Star the other day, and he mentioned you by name. And I know you say it's the media that's pumping up the NDP. I wonder how you feel about what happened to Patrick Brown and whether or not that's impacting your poll numbers.
No, not at all. I mean, Patrick worked hard to try to build up this party. Obviously, he's not our leader anymore. Doug's our guy now. And I think, again, it really comes down to our platform is based on stimulating the economy versus two parties that want to just keep spending and putting us farther into deficit. And I know across the province that's an issue, but when I look in Northern Ontario, it is a major issue. We have high unemployment rates. Our mining world is shrinking, and we need to diversify our economy. We need to bring in other avenues of cash coming in here. We're the central hub of Northern Ontario. We have tourism all around us: Killarney, Manitoulin Island, North Bay, French River, the Lady Evelyn watershed system up near Timmins, and we have nothing here in Sudbury, like nothing. You can't go to a hotel, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't even bike from one side of the city without almost getting killed by a car. Like, we have zero set up in the world of tourism here, which we're a safe province. Northern Ontario is extremely safe. We have a cheap dollar. I mean, that's just one of the many things we can do. We have smart people that come from our universities and colleges, and they all have to leave and go find jobs somewhere else. Those are the kind of people we want to give an opportunity to actually create jobs here, expand our IT, expand our high-tech manufacturing, solve issues that we have here in Northern Ontario, and then take that specialty equipment and technologies and spread them around the world. So for me,
comfortable in a Doug Ford?
Doug's about economy, and Sudbury needs economy. We already know how to do things environmentally safe here. We already have the brains to make our own solutions here. So if he's going to help fund things that make economies grow, we have endless opportunity here. So my thinking is Doug's plan of making the economy grow, my knowledge of what the city could use. When I knock on doors, I hear that over and over, the same thing. People talk about these exact same issues. So we stimulate these things, we make jobs. More jobs makes more tax revenue. Tax revenue helps the economy, helps our city, helps us then pay into other social services that we need to do.
Okay, we're just running a little short on time. The People's Promise was pretty well received. It got a lot of praise. It was pretty detailed. Ford has made a lot of policy announcements with not a lot of meat. And I wonder, the New Democrats, whatever you think of them, they have an aggressive tax and spend strategy. That's who they are, and that's who they've always been. And they're upfront with people. But what I wonder is, when do we get the details of the Doug Ford plan?
It's easy to tell people how you're going to spend money by saying I'm going to put 1.9 billion or 5 billion or 4 billion. There's no details into how that's actually going to be laid out, right? So it's no different than when you say, how am I going to save money?
Okay, but the Tory plan, when are we getting the Tory plan?
No, I'm saying he's coming out with a Tory plan, but
when?
This is, well, soon, I believe, but my problem is everybody wants our details. Where are their details? There's no details in their plan.
What do you mean there's no details?
She talks about efficiencies too, and she's never mentioned where she's going to find efficiencies. She talks about schools. Well, we've had a moratorium on not closing schools. She's saying not closing schools. So I'm just trying to figure out.
It just feels like you're deflecting. I'm asking a question about your platform, but you're talking about the New Democrat platform.
I'm saying if nobody has a platform on details, then why are we the ones that have to have the exact details?
So you're saying because they don't, we don't have to?
I would love to sit down, and I'd love Doug to sit down and go, show me your plan here and show me your plan here. Because if you broke them down, just like we figured out already, that the $1.4 billion that was actual deficit, not revenue, the $6 billion buy into hydro based on a current value of a stock, that if you go to buy a stock and someone wants it, I guarantee you that stock's going up. It isn't going to be $6 billion. So the details are missing in all categories. I would love for them to sit down and pick away, because we have an economic value system that will show the details. Theirs are just throw money, throw money, throw money.
Okay, Troy, thank you for your time today.
Perfect.
Ontario goes to the polls June 7th.